I'd like to call to order the City of Oconomowoc Common Council meeting for Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. Has appropriate meeting notification been made?
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Thank you very much. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Here.
Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Alderman Zaffel.
Present.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Mulder.
Here.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Here.
Thank you. I would like to make a request of council without objection to move item number 12, the mayoral appointments with council confirmation to right now after the roll call. I've asked these folks to come at 7:30, and basically I've already lost one who had another commitment, but we do have one person here if you'd like to meet her. I also have an adjustment to the appointments. We are removing the appointment of Carl Wickman to the Plan Commission, to the Joint Board of Appeals. So he will not be serving on the Joint Board of Appeals. I'm sorry for that misleading information you received in your packet. So we are just looking at two appointments in front of you. And may I have your permission to change the order of the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. So I'd like to start off, we have two appointments for you. Our clerk, Diane Conan, would you like to lead us off, please?
Oh, 1 second.
Just
So the mayor is looking to appoint Tim Valley. I don't have, I gotta get in the packet. To the Plan Commission, thank you. And also looking to appoint Bonnie Lewis and Shannon.
Shannon?
to Shannon. Bonnie, if you want to come up to the podium, that would be great. So thank you for staying, and I'm sorry for the long night.
And that's, Bonnie is to the Board of Review.
So if anybody has any questions for Bonnie, she is here. If not, then I would move for a motion to approve the two mayoral appointments. And again, remember, Carl Wickman has been removed.
So moved. Second.
Well, I'd like to just say thank
Any discussion?
Yeah, Bonnie, thanks for coming out. The Board of Review meetings are going to be 3 times longer than what you waited for.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate the heads up.
I see you had actually a couple other ones I thought on yours, but you got Board of Review. Why were you interested in that?
Due to my real estate background, I feel like it's the board that I can serve the city best.
Perfect. Well, thanks for applying. It's nice to see new people applying for these
Yeah.
posts.
She also is an appraiser too, so
Wow.
she brings some additional skill sets that I think are very valuable.
It's going to be
for our
hard when I
community.
challenge my appraisal next year, is what you're saying?
Any further questions? Roll call, please. And Bonnie, thank you very much for serving our community. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg. Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye. Great. Thank you, Bonnie, and sorry for the delay. And thank you, council, for allowing me to move that for these wonderful people that serve our community for free. We're going to move on to public hearings. We have 3 public hearings today. We'll open and close each hearing. So I'd like to have someone make a motion to open the public hearing for 2021 city budget. Actually, there's no motion that needs to be made, excuse me. So we're opening the hearing, the 4A, the public hearing 2021, the city budget. The purpose is to hear from the public with response to the current 2021 budget. We'll have a brief review by Ms. Sullivan.
Sorry, just give me a second to find my slide. Here I am. That's not what I want. Not only that, but it's the presenter view. The other one I had up. Yeah.
Okay.
It was already up in presenter view, right there. As long as Lou can see it. Can you see it, Lou?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you, I'm ready. So tonight we have the public hearing on the proposed city budget. So, you know, I always talk to the public, it's like, what is the biggest importance of the annual budget? And really, it's because this is a policy decision by the council that provides, you know, it determines the levels of services that we're gonna provide for the citizens and shows how we're gonna fund them. So this also sets the property tax levy that's needed to fund those services. So tonight, so later on in tonight, we will have the approval of the budget, but then we will also need to set the levy for the 2020 levy to be collected in 2021. The budget that we are looking at tonight was recommended for approval by the Common Council on September 22nd. So inside the budget, what are we approving tonight? The budget consists of several parts. The general fund, which is our main operating budget. Special revenue funds, which is where you'll find things like impact fees and park improvement funds, those kind of things. The debt service fund, our capital projects fund, where we buy our big equipment and pay for our infrastructure. And then internal service funds, which is really our risk management, our fleet, and technology. So from last year, and what are the, looking at last year's budget and moving into this year's budget, what were really the major changes that have happened throughout the process? Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about is some of the increased revenues that we see in the 2021 budget. And one of our major increases is the pilot increase from Town or Crest, which finally came online the end of last year and was valued in 2020 and will pay the pilot for the first time in 2021. And we also have some increases in some of our state aids just due to the formulas that the state has. Some of the decreases that we have coming forward in the 2021 budget really come from some uncertain revenues that we've talked about before. And those would be the room taxes, which have shown a decline due to COVID, community center activity, and interest rates, which have been falling, this year. We started out this year at about earning around 2% interest, and we're down to less than 0.5% right now. So we take that into account when we're moving forward into the budget. One of the things that we did to help mitigate this was use the savings from moving the public fire protection from the levy to the water bills to help mitigate those losses in revenue. Some of the changes to the general fund expenses include an increase that we're seeing as a transfer to tourism. This is a new transfer. This is coming from room taxes. So basically what we're looking at is in 2021, the reduction of room taxes to the point that it can't support the tourism anymore, at least for next year. So for next year, in this budget, we are transferring the city's share of room taxes to the tourism fund to keep them alive. We also are increasing our expense for the joint fire service. It's a 15% increase this year, but it was something that was planned for several years, and so that's something that we were ready for. Also an increase would be wages and benefits, so we have a 1.5% COLA increase in there, health insurance at about 7%, and then we've got some new full-time employees included in this budget as well. Decreases to the general fund operating expenses, of course, is the major one I already talked about, is moving the hydrant charges or the public fire protection to the water bills. When we did that, we used those funds yeah, I list the way that we actually use those funds. So what we did is we used $380,000 of those funds for our capital projects to keep them off of the levy, or increase in the levy for capital projects. We also used some of that funding to decrease the fire district charges from the levy and to cover about $234,000 worth of the decreased revenues that we talked about earlier. Another major thing that we did in here is decrease the debt service payment by using the premium from the 2020 debt and fund balance in the debt service fund to help decrease the payment for next year and also pay off the fire engine so that payment doesn't come up again. It's done. So not 7 years. We had expected that to last for 7 more years. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied. And then we also decreased it by using the public safety impact fees to help decrease the debt for the new public safety building. In this budget, the 2020 levy includes $2.48 million in capital spending. Capital spending for 2021 includes the street maintenance plan, lighting at the Champion Fields, a swim pier replacement, squad car replacements, purchase of a flail mower and a plow truck. Those are all levy-funded capital projects. And then we always take a look at, what our general debt outstanding is right now too. While we did take on a significant debt last year in 2020, or this year in 2020, the city is still using only between about 21% of its debt capacity. So we are at about $28 million. Our legal debt limit is $132 million. So we're still a low debt community. We had a meeting with the council here. The council had a meeting to review this budget on September 22nd. And some of the things that changed from the proposed budget and changed during that meeting was the need for us that came up at sort of the last minute to add $15,000 to the budget for police department telephone search warrants. That's a new charge from AT&T that they'd never used to charge us, and we will be charged for that now. We also subtracted about a little over $9,000 for health insurance savings when the actual numbers came in. As I said, we reduced the debt service $373,500 by using premium and the debt service fund balance. From the police department budget, the implicit bias training was removed, but the overall training budget was given an increase of $2,500 to help mitigate some of those dollars that were taken away for training. We also added a planning department intern for just over $7,500, and then we added $15,000 to the 2021 contingency. The main reason that we did this is to keep us in compliance with our excess capacity levy that we have right now. So currently, at the end of this budget, we still carry about $185,000 of excess levy capacity that we will save for the next couple of years to see when we need it. But when we've completed this budget, it put us about $22,000 over the amount that the state allows us to carry year to year. So with the addition of the intern and the contingency, we get within the guideline, within the limit that we're looking to get to without losing any base value. So the total changes made that night, $347,516. So then we take a look at, bottom line, look at last year, look at this year. So what the 2020 tax rate payable 2021 is proposed to be about, it's between 11 and 12 cents. So it's 11 point something. So it's $5.84 compared to $5.73 the year before. You'll see that most of the change came from the debt service itself. We take a look at how do we compare to other communities, and Oconomowoc is still doing really well. From the state, from a look at state, all of the municipalities in the state, they rank 190 municipalities. We come in at 184 as having one of the lower local rates. So that's really good. And then within our own county and within Waukesha County, we come in right in the middle of all the other municipalities within the county. So as I said, later tonight, We will look to approve the 2021 budget as amended and set the 2020 tax levy, and that tax levy amount is $12,357,279, which equates to that $5.83 or 84 cents mill rate. So we'll look at that a little bit more later in this meeting. Okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you for the summary. Do we have any comments from the public? At this point, I'd like to close the public hearing on the city budget and move on to the next item, Prairie Creek Ridge Addition Number 5. Mr. Gallo?
Great, thank you. Good evening. I'll give a brief presentation and overview of the request before the public hearing for Prairie Creek Ridge Addition Number 5. This is a two-part request. It's on the agenda tonight under items 9A and 9B. It includes both a comprehensive plan amendment as well as a rezoning of lands. The lands are located on the screen. You can see outlined in both red and blue. It's on the north area of Prairie Creek Ridge subdivision. It would be west of Brown Street, north of Lake Drive, and east of the bypass. I think we're all somewhat familiar with the area. I'll give you kind of an overview of the site and some of the surrounding land uses, because we're talking about an amendment to the land use plan. So we want to change this. So it's good to get a context of the area out there. The site itself is shown here in, again, the red and the blue area. And to the south directly is existing single-family homes. We have future commercial. It's currently vacant right now, but it's on the land use plan. It's shown as future commercial. We have the public school right here, the elementary school. We have a park that's under construction. We have the school, St. Matt's, right in this area with a future church and future single-family residential. So it's kind of getting to be a mixed area, you can see, with some institutional uses, future commercial, and single-family. Now, as I stated, it's a two-part request. We have the city, as all municipalities have, a land use plan that many of you worked on, which was adopted about 10 months ago. And every land use decision that you make has to be consistent with that plan. So we have to change, the request tonight is to change the plan from suburban residential on that of 21 acres to medium density residential, which would allow for some 2 families and 4 family units. If that's approved, then the zoning could be changed to reflect that as well. And the current zoning of the area is called UR. It's Urban Reserve. It's a holding district that farming is allowed in that district. They'd like to change that to suburban residential, which would allow for some single family on 9.6 acres. And then again, change the remaining area of 21 acres to this residential multi-unit low, which would allow the 2s and the 4s to take place. So they submitted an exhibit showing the break off, and the 9.6 acre site is over here. That would be going to single family, and the land use plan does not have to change for this area because it's currently allows for single family. But that the remaining area is this 21.4 acres. That has to be changed, both land use plan and the zoning, to reflect what they would like to do. So that area changes, so that's the request number 1, from the suburban residential to medium density residential. It's 21.4 acres. And I have showing you, this is kind of a partial area of our land use plan, not the whole city, obviously, but I just wanted to give you some context of what it shows. When I created this area, this couple hundred acres up there, I kind of used a broad brush and I put it all as yellow. I knew someday there might be some multifamily up there. I didn't know how much or where it would be located. For some other things that's interesting about this, there is some multifamily, the same light brown here and even further south down here. The Glen of Oconomowoc and then the Prairie Creek Apartments. So it would be the light brown color. The very dark brown way down here is the Towner Crest. So it's not that high density, it's more the medium density residential. If that is approved, successful, then they're also asking for tonight on the agenda is a rezoning from urban reserve, the whole thing is zoned urban reserve, to, this would have to change to suburban residential, which would allow for single family, and this would change, is asking for the zoning change to residential multi-unit low again, RML, which is 21 acres. So again, this is now a partial zoning map of the city, and you can see it's all that green speckled pattern. That's urban reserve. That, again, that's a holding district. All of that blue up there is institutional, and the yellow is suburban residential. Okay. So they submitted a plan, a concept plan of what they would like to do. They would like to develop the vacant area into 87 residential units. It consists of 64 residential condominiums and 23 single-family homes. The condominiums would be duplexes and 4 families. They would feather the density out. You'd have existing single-family homes here with duplexes. Bordering those with a buffer of landscaping. And then you'd get into some 4-unit buildings in here. It'd be a clubhouse, some stormwater ponds, and some additional 2s and 4s over here, and then additional landscaping around the perimeter, and then again, some single-family homes. This is future single-family development. This again is the park, so nice proximity to the park, and then the school. If you're wondering, well, what type of development is this going to bring to the city? They did submit concept renderings. We don't usually get these, and it's not a requirement for a zoning change, but I thought, well, they were submitted, so let's be as transparent as possible to show you what the imagery of the buildings that they would be building, okay? So they had this one, a second one, a third one here, and a 4th one. Now this is the same developer that's doing other projects currently in the city. These are very similar units to the Village Crossings condominiums. So that's the type of quality and the type of product that would be brought with this rezoning request. But where do we go from here? Well, the Plan Commission held a hearing and recommended this to the council on last week, on Wednesday, the 14th. We're holding the second public hearing right now at the council. And again, both items, as I mentioned earlier, are on the agenda tonight for action. The use itself requires a future subdivision plat to create the single-family homes and that outlot that would be created with a developer's agreement. The multifamily section site that you saw in the middle, the 21 acres, that would require Plan Commission review and approval as a major design review. We'd be looking at everything from parking, lighting, landscaping, grading, the utilities. And the multifamily buildings also would have to go through before the Architectural Commission. They review anything over a duplex in size, so it would have to go to them as well. Staff does support this request, and I would like to just give you some brief reasons why. First of all, we have a housing ratio in the city, and then whenever we rezone to a multifamily or higher density, that's always a question. Well, This does not change really the housing density much at all. In fact, it tips it more for single family, because if you recall, when we went through the land use plan, it was decided that condominium is really an ownership of a home, and that should be counted as a single family. So when I changed all the condos that we have in the city, which it was more than I initially thought, the ratio went down to 67%, 67.9, 68 was single family when you added the condos in, and 32% was multifamily. This changes it only a quarter percent. It goes to 68.25% would be single-family homes, and 31.75, which is less than the 40%, would be multifamily. I also support this because it's the location. It's adjacent to single-family homes, it's near commercial, it's near institutional uses. It's really a diverse land use, and it creates a synergy for that area, provides a lot of different people and uses in that area. Traffic, this was discussed at the Plan Commission. This will be bringing different types of traffic patterns to that area. So even though the numbers are, you think, oh, it's multifamily, it's more traffic. That's not true. This is empty nesters, snowbirds, retirees. These people have smaller households, they have no kids, and they have different traffic patterns, creating less traffic during peak periods. Next, the density. We usually don't get a detailed site plan with a rezoning. In this case, we did. And if you added up, the density is actually the same as if it was at 3 units per acre that the suburban residential would allow for. Now, we can't guarantee that that's what's coming in, but we know that this is the number of units proposed is it's consistent with what the density is for suburban residential. The housing type itself, it provides different diverse housing. It's not a 2-story single-family home. These are single-story ranch homes. It's so it'll be a different product with people do not have to cut grass. They don't have to shovel snow. They can be for a different type of person that maybe wants to be near their children or their grandchildren. So it gives diversity. And then the impacts to the land, we can put conditions still on the development to soften the impacts, such as the landscaping buffer that I pointed out. So for those reasons, I do support it. The recommendation is to approve the ordinance, that would be amending the land use plan, and to approve an ordinance to rezone the lands, and that consists of both the 21.4 acres from urban reserve and the 9.6 acres to suburban residential. I'll be available to answer any questions later in the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallo. I'd like to open the public hearing. Do we have any public comments at this time?
I'm Craig Caliendo. I'm president of Kingsway Homes. So we're the proposed builder for the condominiums here. And what we're doing really is duplicating the same product that we're building in Village Crossing. The only difference here is that in addition to doing the side-by-side 2-unit buildings, we're actually doing 8, what we call them double duplexes. So we're taking two of the side-by-side buildings and putting them together. It allows us to hit a slightly lower price point and consolidate the density a little bit so that we have more open space in the project. So what we're seeing is that these condominium developments are really a nice complement when they're adjacent to single-family subdivisions. It's like what we're seeing in Village Crossing. We've got a lot of people that are interested in having relatives, older retired people live close by to the families that are living in the single-family homes. This provides a diversity of some product type in this spot right here. So we think it's a great site. We actually reached out, we mailed out over 100 invitations to the residents and the single-family properties around there to explain to them what we were doing. We offered to set up a series of neighborhood meetings, complying with the COVID requirements and trying to keep the numbers down, to answer any questions or address any concerns that they had. We actually only got 4 responses. 3 of the people were interested in when the units would be available and how much they were, and 1 person wanted to know if the pool would be available to the single-family homeowner. So we didn't get any negative comments. We ended up not holding any meetings. We just responded with the information that we had. So we're excited. We think this is a great project. We're seeing, real strong demand in Village Crossing at Pass Farms, also on the Vespera project that we're doing off of Silver Lake. So we hope the council will approve this project. The square footage of the units are going to range from 1,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet. Prices will start at about 400 and go to about 550, averaging in the 500 range, which is what we're seeing out in Village Crossing. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be available. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? Okay, I'd like to go ahead and close the public hearing for the Prairie Creek Ridge Edition number 5. Let's move forward on to Mr. Hepner, if you can enlighten us on the tree text amendment, please.
Good evening, or good morning. The city ordinance currently requires developers to plant street trees as improvements to their subdivision based on an approved plan by our city. Developers construct the streets, the utilities, curbs, sidewalks, all up front before homes are built. Trees are not to be planted until the individual home is there and the terraced lawn is grown in. So this can easily happen 2, 3, 4, 7 years down the road or longer, long after the developers moved on from the project. More times than not, we've seen where the subcontractor hired to plant the trees really does not do a good job. We don't have knowledge of it. They're supposed to let us know. They don't. We don't have inspection. We don't have really quality control over it. They plant them improperly, different species that were in the plan, et cetera. So what we're proposing is that the developers pay $500 per tree into a tree fund at the time of final plat approval, and that our staff, in most cases, or us hiring a subcontractor by the city, would then plant the trees when it was appropriate. The ordinance itself basically reduces this pretty simply. They would still provide a street tree planting plan to us. What we would require is 3 trees per each 100-foot of street centerline be planted, which equates to basically what we're doing right now. And then we, as a city, would be responsible for planting the trees. The developer would be in charge of paying for them. We will bring a resolution with the actual dollar amount. We didn't want to put that in the ordinance, just to let you know. But we think this makes a lot of sense for all 3 parties, which is the residents, our city, and developers, because developers really don't want to be in the tree business. They'll tell you that. I think that's what we do well. So it makes a lot of sense. It's something I worked in the community I came from, did it for many, many years. There's many other communities that do it. So we think at this time it makes sense to change this ordinance so we can have the developers pay for it up front, but then the city will take care of planting trees. And I'll certainly be answering any kind of questions when we get to that point in the night.
Thank you, Mr. Hepner. I'd like to open the public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public at this time?
Hi, I'm Mike Bickler. Mike Carrick and I are developing Prairie Creek Ridge, and I would be in support of the $500 for trees. I think that's a good idea. It takes it off our plate and puts it, I think, where it belongs, where the experts are taking care of that. So I just think it's a good idea, and I'd like to commend you for bringing it up tonight and hopefully voting for it. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing on the street tree text amendment and move on to our next item of business, approval of the meeting minutes dated September 15th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on and open to comments and suggestions from citizens. Does anybody in the audience have any comments and suggestions they'd like to share with the council? With nobody coming forward, we'll move on to our consent agenda items and entertain a motion for our current consent agenda items.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On to committee reports, finance. Ms. Sullivan.
Tonight in your packets, you saw the recommendation for approval of grants and donations received during the third quarter of 2020. So this is unbudgeted grants and donations that are awarded to different departments in the city. We need to do a budget amendment, which does mean that I will need a 2/3 vote. This is a budget amendment to record those revenues and authorize and the expenses that match that.
I'd like to entertain a motion at this time.
So moved?
Second. Roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zappel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to Plan Commission items. First item is consider act on ordinance 20-0987 to amend the City of Oconomowoc Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2050 for the Prairie Creek Ridge Number 5 subdivision. I'd like to entertain a motion and we'll then give Jason time to answer any questions.
So moved?
Second. I'd like to open up for comments or questions to Mr. Gallo.
Right, we held a
Mr.
public
Rozak?
hearing on this, and no one spoke, and this, again, is a land use plan amendment, and every decision you make must be consistent with the land use plan. So they're asking to rezone it, so the land use really must come first, and they're asking for this. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Mr. Rozak?
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. In general, I like their product. I liked what they did at the crossings. I've commented every time they come up for approvals, those look great. I think these will look great, but I do have a couple concerns about the land use plan where it is. It looks like it just creates this weird pocket amongst all the single-family residential. And not that I'm necessarily opposed to that, but I do remember some of the folks in the city at some point having issues with connectivity to roads for safety purposes on other projects that we did. And what I'm seeing here is one entrance and then a dead end with 64 units. Do you have a concern, Jason, about safety egress with only one road entering?
There's actually two roads that would go through this.
Where's the other one?
It would be, let me see if this,
Wheeling Drive
Yeah,
down
it's right-
below, yeah.
right here, where the red dot is?
That's a connection there? Okay.
Yes.
Comes out down below.
It didn't look like that on the map. Okay. And then the other one up on the top on Wayland Drive?
Yeah, this is the main one. I said Wayland Drive is more the collector street with a lighted intersection. We had the same discussion at the Plan Commission that we don't want a lot of the traffic going out the back door here. We want it all, so this is really an emphasized as the main point of the development for the multifamily. Wayland Drive is the straight shot out to Brown Street. That's a controlled intersection with a light. That's really the predominant ingress egress into the multifamily, but there is a secondary
Good.
one.
It just, on the sheet, it didn't look like that, so I wanted to ask about that. That's great.
A lot of trees in there.
Yeah, it was hard to see. It's covered. The other question I had about this in general is, because this is not a plan development overlay, we're being told it's only going to be the 64 units, but once we change the zoning, once we change the planning, and then we change the zoning, they could come in and ask for all the units to be the larger 4 units and be within their rights to do that, correct?
They could.
I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but
Right, knowing the track record of this quality of this developer, I'm confident that this is the project. Now, could maybe a building move a little bit here or a setback or something? It could move, but I don't think the density is going to change.
And I don't think we can actually usually even consider what goes in if they don't have to. They could just ask for the change without even
They've asked for
considering
the
what goes
change,
in.
right.
But we've been presented with a plan, we've been presented with, the actual views. I'm gonna vote in favor of it because I think it's a good addition to the city. The values are really high. I'm trusting the developer that once we change the zoning in the plan, that it's not gonna go from 64 units to 128. Because I don't think, the people around there that got their invites would be happy if it was that many units versus what they're being proposed. So with that understanding, I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Alderman Kavieski?
This kind of marries to the connectivity topic, while not specifically to the streets, but as that pocket develops, and I'm glad to see that it is developing, that crossover, from the across the bypass over to Nature Hill, is there anything that is pending or planned to help with the pedestrian connectivity associated with that pocket into the rest of the city? And as these developments come forward, is there anything being set aside or anything that we are asking the developers to contribute to in that pedestrian-friendly connectivity to the main part of the city?
Well, that was two questions. Is there any pathways or trails that lead to the rest of the city? And I would say yes. There's sidewalks along Whalen Drive that these residents can get out and get on the sidewalk system, and that would take you throughout the rest of the city. We are working with the Parks Department on an ultimate trail plan that would potentially lead like spokes on a wheel, with the hub being the downtown, and that would be one of the spokes going out to the northeast area to get out onto some trails, but that's down the way in future planning. But there's sidewalks out there. The second thing is the sidewalk, or is the developer being asked to contribute towards things? Well, they do pay the park and open space fee with every unit. I think it's around $2,800 per dwelling, so that's quite a contribution to help pay for the park. That's up there, the Northeast Quadrant Regional Park, and a lot of our trails are linear, and that money can go towards some improvements in that area as well.
Thank you.
Alderman Mulder.
Thanks for submitting the full plans on this. This is in my district, and when I heard that there was going to be multifamily in amongst single family, that always makes me wonder why and what that's going to be and what's the impact going to be on the existing homeowners. So I was really glad to hear that you'd done that outreach to the community and that there was no negative pushback. So I think it's a nice use, and I think it will be. We have a very mixed age group in my neighborhood, and I think it's really good to have this type of development within those single families. So I'm supportive as well.
Any further questions? Alderman Rogers.
Is there a future want of this same kind of stuff? Can we be having this conversation again in another couple of years, or is this secure the only available?
I can't answer that, but I can tell you that this will probably be the last phase for a while. There's a tremendous amount of drop-off, and a lot of fill would have to be brought in for the remaining areas to go north and to the west. And then if you go way to the north, like the corner up there on Brown and Highway K, that's not in the city at this point. So I think, this is going to be, there could be some future residential, but it's not going to be for a while up there.
Okay.
Because of the topography of the area, potential for a lift station.
There's other issues, but as far
Yeah.
as this location goes, this is the best possible for the available land that's there with respect to.
I think it is a good use of land for all the reasons I stated earlier, with providing some diverse housing and.
Other than just putting single-family homes.
Right,
in
we have
the
a lot
same-
of single-family homes up there right now, and I think this was a good use for that property.
Any further comments? Alderman Spiegelberg.
Well, to Andy's point, plus it's not really going to be affecting traffic as if it were single-family homes and/or our schools in that area, based on the demographic of buyer that he was sharing with
Sure.
us, so.
Motion's been made, seconded. Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
Next item up, which is tied to this, is.
Mayor, could we potentially waive the second reading? It's
We
an
can, I
ordinance.
thought we should do both of them to make sure they want both of them,
Okay,
because they're both tied together.
they're tied together.
So it seems silly what happens if B they say no to.
Sure.
So that was my rationale.
Sure.
So we'll move on to consider Act Ordinance 20-0986, which is to rezone the land suburban residential district and residential multi-unit low for Prairie Creek Ridge Number 5 subdivision. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any, any further discussion?
I got it.
District 4's day today, apparently.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
I'd like to request from council to waive the second reading without objection for both item 9A and 9B.
So moved. Second.
No objection? And we'll move on. Next item up is consider act of the condominium plot for Village Crossing at Paps Farm 2, addendum number 11. Mr. Gallo.
I'll give a brief overview. This is a condominium plat for Village Crossing number 2 down in the Paps Farms area. Back in July, the city approved the general development plan for this area, and at that time, it was noted that they'll have to eventually do a condominium plat, so then the individual units get assigned a tax key number that then the developer can sell for, you know, individual ownership. So this is more of a, I'll call it a housekeeping matter. It's the plat that conforms to the general development plan. It does contain 12 buildings down there, and it's a total of 24 units. These are all duplexes, and this is, it has the zoning in place. The Plan Commission approved the design plans that included the grading and the utilities and all of that. And now this is just platting the Derby Lane area in the city.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Next item is consider act of condominium plat for Vespera 2, addendum number 1.
Very similar to the last application. This is Vespera 2. It's the same developer. Craig Caliendo is here. The Plan Commission did recommend this, as well as the last item, to the Common Council. Without any negative votes, this comes to you with a positive recommendation. This is the Vespera 2 condominium plat. This is called an expandable condominium plat. I included a little mock-up drawing in your thing of the 4 buildings that were approved in March of 2020, and now they want to do 2 additional buildings in October of 2020. So the total project of Vespera 2 was approved with 26 buildings. And in the first condo plat, we approved 8, and then this one they're asking for 4 more units. So that's a total of 12 units out of the 26. So we still have a few units to go, but it's an expandable plat. The sales out there are doing very well. All these units are being, the ones that are being acted on tonight are both all sold. So they're building them as fast as people are buying them. So they're very, sales are very strong for this product type.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zaffel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Our next item is consider act on ordinance 20-0985 to repeal and recreate section 18.02 of the City of Oconoma Municipal Code regarding street trees. I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion for Mr. Hepner or questions you may have? Alderman Shell Pepper.
I'm just wondering what the bottom line is in terms of, is the cost going to go up to the city, you know, in this type of arrangement?
Well, we tried to build that in, so real quick, in 2018 and 2019, working with Newman Companies in Pine Ridge, their quotes are about $420 for trees installed. So we tried to build in a little extra, but that's part of the reason we're not including it in the ordinance. We'll do a separate resolution, so if also tree prices like lumber goes up doubly, we can change that and adjust pretty quickly. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think 500 is a very fair price right now, but obviously in the future.
What about in
we'll need
terms
to
of
change.
staff time? I mean, taking away from other duties and, I mean,
It's,
is it
yeah,
gonna?
no, good question. So Pine Ridge, again, a great example. We've worked with them to clean up some messes we had with the homeowners association. And so this year, we're adding 16 trees to our inventory from that. So you'll add some like that, but because they're spread out over a number of years, it's not gonna be 100 trees or anything at one time. So we generally plant 200 to 225 trees a year. So this, doing another 15 or 20 or 30 is not gonna be a big deal.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments? Alderman Spiegelberg.
So you said that you had done this in your prior community and that a lot of communities do this, but I guess my question was, and you mentioned Pine Ridge, which was what I was going to ask you. Was the drama with Pine Ridge part of the impetus for us to do this now?
Well,
Because that's our district, and
right.
we kind of were privy to a lot of that drama going on.
The staff before I came here actually was interested in doing this, and I think they were working behind the scenes to work towards this anyways. That certainly helped. And it showed that between, in that case, the developer and the homeowner association and back and forth and what they had charged really didn't make sense. So we stepped in and it worked out well the way it ended, and I think it's the right way. So that was another step. And if you recall also, Pine Ridge West, we included this already in the developer's agreement, so they've kind of been our test case, and I think it's been very successful that way.
Thank you.
Alderman Rozak.
Couple quick, these are just street trees, not trees everywhere else in green space that they're putting in. or the
Correct, so just
developers
public
doing.
street trees. So like the last example, or the example of the condo, not private drives, this will be only public streets.
And you said, you think there's only gonna be average per year an extra 20 or 30 trees that you're gonna have to plant because of this. The only concern I have with it is we start taking on a lot, we got a lot of building, and then all of a sudden we have a request for another part-time employee next year because we're planting so many trees. And we're not making enough money on the plantings, and we have to expend $25,000 plus benefits to hire a person. So as long as you don't think that's gonna be a problem with your current staff levels and the additions that you do have, you know.
Yeah, I'm confident with that. At the same time, we also allow ourselves to subcontract out. So if there's a unique year even, where we have a lot of other projects or things we have to work on, we can contract this out. We just have
Okay.
better oversight then.
Right.
So that's.
And the
yeah.
500's enough to say, okay, we got 10 trees in this new place. 500's enough to hire someone to do that without expending more money on our part.
Correct.
Okay.
In 2021 for sure, and for the next number of years.
Okay.
But going down the road, you'll have to look at it.
Okay, fair.
Alderman Kavieski.
With us taking over the planting of the trees, we will then be in charge of the species of tree associated with the planting. Will that help to eliminate some of the issues that we've had with heavier species than others and result in things like the ash tree and all of the removal and costs associated with that?
The idea, for instance, even the Prairie Creek subdivision, they planted trees last year. They only did 3 species. And so what we're planting this fall on our own is 13 different species. So variety definitely is a spice of life with trees for that very reason. So this gives us much, and as things change, also if maples become a problem with insects or something, we can adjust pretty quickly in-house and make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zappel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shellpepper.
Aye.
I'd like to request of council to consider without objection to waive the second reading.
So moved. Second.
No objection? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to, thank you, Mr. Hepner. Let's move on to old business. We have a presentation action on the Waukesha County Communications Center capital expense buy-in. Alderman Kavieski is going to do this presentation. Alderman Kavieski, it's yours.
Thank you. I'm gonna try to do this remotely. Ivan, I tried to share the PowerPoint.
Face off the thing would be
Where's Ivan?
Do I have to look at that face?
There it goes. Perfect. Minimize.
Alderman Kavieski, nobody wants to see your face.
Sure.
I'm just here to protect you. We love this smile.
All right. All right. So we discussed as council the opportunity to do the one-time capital buy-in associated with the brick and mortar cost to WCC. Last session, there was a request for additional information. This PowerPoint presentation is an attempt to provide additional information to make a decision to move forward or not with this opportunity. I've broken down the PowerPoint into 4 main topics. What's the difference between the buy-in and operational transfer? Why the buy-in now makes sense? How is the buy-in structured and what does that mean to cost? And what is the impact to the levy? Start out with the difference between the capital buy-in and operational transfer. In no way, shape, or form is this an opening of a door to discuss an operational transfer of local dispatch to WCC. This is an opportunity to fix the capital expense costs associated with a transfer to WCC at some point in time, whether that be in the next few years or out further. The cost associated with the capital expense is determined based on the value of our community, which continuously goes up every year, and that'll be shown in one of the slides. So why does it make sense to take a look at this right now? Currently, we have a general fund balance unreserved, and it's kind of at $4,120,667. Out of that, we've approved $306,000 for 2021 capital project plans. The reason that we looked at the unreserved general fund balance is because as a council in discussion, we felt that was a little excessive in regards to the unreserved general fund balance, and to utilize some of those funds to move some projects forward. There's also an amount yet to be determined for cost savings, and again, I'm not trying to anticipate a fixed dollar amount. We won't know that fixed dollar amount associated with a cost savings to the public safety building until probably January, from what I've been told by staff. But even if it's $20,000, that unspent dollar amount from the bond associated with that project could be applied to the one-time capital expense associated with this project. At a minimum, the decision to buy in now would save the taxpayer of the city of Oconomowoc approximately $10,591, and fixes our cost, our capital cost for buy-in moving forward.
Bless you.
Bless you. There are really 2 ways that we could take a look at the opportunity to do that buy-in. Our current equalized value and the equation associated with that equalized value would put us at $176,524 that could be paid from the unreserved general fund balance in 2021. And again, that would go up again, if we didn't do it now, because we would be assessed that one-time buy-in at the new equalized value of the community for 2021 and 2022. So option one. Option two, we could obtain approval from Waukesha County for a split payment in 2021, 2022, making the 2021 payment $88,262. That could be a line item reserved out of the general fund, and that ultimately could be reduced with the cost savings from the public safety building. So for example, if we reserve that line item at $88,262 and a cost savings of $20,000 was realized from the public safety building, the actual amount coming out of the general unreserved fund would be $68,262. If we didn't take advantage of this opportunity now, those funds out of that bond would probably go back to either paying down that bond or potentially another project associated with the public safety building. I believe it has to be spent to the public safety building. Both options, 1 and 2, have no impact on the 2021 levy. And both options, as I'm presenting them, would be a reserve in the budget line item for 2021, which could be acted upon later in 2021 based on actual economic conditions after the election, or based on the evaluation that is scheduled sometime, I believe, in first quarter associated with dispatch. We really started talking about WCC when I got on council in a serious way as it applied to public safety building. I used 2017 as a baseline associated with cost. You'll see a full rate and an 85% rate. The reason that there's an 85% rate in the one-time buy-in for the capital expense is because the city of Oconomowoc already paid 15% of our one-time buy-in obligation, because Western Lakes Fire District is currently active with WCC. To give you some specific numbers associated with that, the 2017 one-time buy-in would have been at that 85% rate, $133,633. Taking to today's buy-in at $176,524. I took it out 5 years. Again, I'm not suggesting that we are going to transfer operational service to WCC next year, the year after, or even the year after that. But as we consider the evaluation, because we're not getting anything more in our service level from WCC for the capital buy-in, but our costs go up every year in the buy-in. And the projections are based on a 6% annual increase in the equalized value of our community. So you'll see kind of a steady increase, whereas prior to 2020, there's a little jagged nature to it, because we've had actual data associated with that ranges anywhere from 5% to 9%. We used a 6% average moving forward on the projections. So the cost differential from 2017 to 2025 is approximately $90,000 that we could have saved the community if we would have looked at the one-time capital buy-in in 2017. And again, the average amount associated with the buy-in today or in 2021 comparatively to every year thereafter is about $10,591. So it's not a couple $1,000s that was discussed in the last session. It's relatively real money, and over year after year adds up.
I'd entertain a motion.
For the budget.
I'll move to approve the capital buy-in using option one, the full one-time payment of $176,524 as presented out of the unreserved general fund balance.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
All right, Mayor.
Lieutenant Tim.
Mayor, so here we go again. For the fourth, fifth, sixth time in the last several years, we were talking about dispatch. I want to stress to you that our dispatch center is our glue of our police department. First person that you talk to when you call us for help, first person you see when you walk in the lobby is our dispatch. They are the mothership. They keep us calm. They keep us updated on our calls. Even with everything going on in this country for law enforcement in the last few months, our police department has never had a higher morale than it is right now. We have a new chief with a brand new vision. We have a brand new, gorgeous police department. And we have a new dispatch center with brand new equipment. Let me tell you about what happened today. This agenda came out, and this agenda item came up, and my phone kept ringing all day. All 11 of my dispatchers, my 5 full-time, my 6 part-time, plus several officers called me today and said, "Are you serious? You gotta be kidding me. Why? What is going on?" So they cannot be here today because of COVID, but they had some very strong words for the council here for this being brought up again. And the biggest question is why? Why is this being brought up again? I'm frustrated because this topic being brought up is opening up the dispatch topic once again, okay? Again, frustration, it's an attack on our police department, an attack of our dispatch center. Chief Pfister and I are both in agreement that this being brought up is just the first step of trying to take over to WCC. Basically, when we talked about this on September 22nd, the majority of the council members here present pretty much said, you know what, we want to have an independent analysis of the dispatch center. That is in the budget for 2021. As we were told, basically, the majority of you guys said, let's revisit this after that study. I don't know what has changed. I don't know if Alderman Kavieski's got a crystal ball, but he has, in his proposal, he has inevitable. I don't remember ever hearing that inevitable. Where is he getting that from? In 2025, 2030? Nobody knows when we could even never go there. Then we would lose $176,524 in this budget to go towards WCC that we will never get back. There is rumors that the village of McGuanago might be going to WCC. That is completely false. We have spoke to the administrative staff, Chief Pfister and I. They did pay that brick and mortar fee way back when, and they regret it. We spoke to them today, and they are not going to WCC now or anytime in the future. And they, again, regret it because they're taken away from the necessities that are needed right now in that village. So basically what I am saying is the frustration is there. This is, again, an attack of our dispatch center and our police department, and I ask the council to turn this down.
I'd like to open it for further discussion. Alderman Spiegelberg.
Well, you guys know where I've landed with this. I decided to come tonight with kind of a fair and balanced approach and comments on this. We're tasked and trusted by our constituents and our employees to make decisions in their best interest with the best information that we have. And although this appears to be some information to ponder, I believe we are putting the cart before the horse, like you said. We have money in the budget. Thank you, to you guys for the work that you did on this, but we have money in the budget right now to do a study on this. And so wouldn't it be in the best interest of the community to do an independent and professional study with that money that's budgeted? But woven in with that independent study, I would like to pursue the opportunity to get our cell phone calls back from Waukesha County. We've never pursued that. We've never really looked into that. What would that look like? We can engage with Middleton on their success. They have been very forthcoming in the success that they had with that, and that they would also give us some direction with that. So right now, in my opinion, this is a what if. We would be spending the taxpayers' money on a what if. We would be only saving approximately $10,000 to do this now, spending $176,000 plus for something that has no value to us right now, and it might never have if we don't pull the trigger on this. And Furthermore, we're going into another year of uncertainty, and then trying to put this other $176,000 into this budget. Again, I think a study would give us a better understanding on the full impact of this. So I personally believe as a council, this is not a wise decision for us right now as a city for the financial reasons I already stated, and extremely important, the personnel impact. This is already, as he has mentioned, putting a cloud over the heads of our dispatchers and the related employees. We've barely opened the doors to the new public safety building, and now they have to be concerned about their jobs and constantly looking over their shoulders. To wrap this up, I guess my suggestion and my hope would be that we put this off until at least next year. Do the study and come back and talk about it again. Maybe this is inevitable at some point, maybe it's not. But let's do the study and move forward with all the information and possibilities. We can always at some point do a budget amendment for a buy-in again and use money from the fund balance. But I think that we owe this extra time to our constituents and to our employees who would be affected. I won't be voting to pursue this buy-in.
Alderman Ellis?
I've thought about this on several occasions. One day I'm like, all right, I'm done. Next day I'm okay. No, I don't want to do it. But I thought about this today. I'm not here for what I want to do. I'm here for my constituents. I'm here for the individuals that put me here. I've gotten a number of phone calls from people just in my own block that do not want to see dispatch leave or done. And the reason they're being is because they work there. It hits home, especially in light of what is potentially going to happen next year. We don't know what the economy is going to be like. And my concern here is we're going to spend money at the end of the day that, according to what I just saw, the word inevitable is on that proposal. I don't think anybody does anything without there being a reason and a purpose. And ultimately, I believe that reason and purpose is so that we can move there. Now, maybe that is the right thing to do. And I also get the understanding, or the reasoning that it's not cheaper any more today than it will be at any other time. I get that. But once again, we have to look above and beyond the numbers. We have to look at our constituents. We have to look at those individuals that it's going to hurt. Because when I sat here and I listened to those individuals from WCC, I asked one specific question, and that was, if we go to your location, will our employees be taken care of? They said absolutely and positively no. That was after 3 other times when they came and told me yes. So that concerns me an awful lot. I don't think this is a time for us to spend money, guys. I think this is really a time for us to figure out a plan B, a plan C, just in case that has to happen. We are dealing with an economy right now that is really messed up. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Okay? The governor got pushback, and guess what? The judge ruled in his favor. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't see why this is so important for today. To save $10,000? We just spent $9 million on a building to save $10,000? I'm sorry, I can't vote on this and then walk out there knowing that inevitably, because and I could be wrong, and I'm hoping that I am wrong, but if this passes tonight I almost assure you that next year, January, February, it's gonna come back up and they're gonna say, we wanna go there. Well, the money is there. We might as well spend it. This is not time to do that. This is time for us at this point to figure out what we can do to save these businesses and to save this community going forward. And I don't know if that's it.
Any further comments from council? Alderman Rozak. Oh,
Yeah, Lori, do we have to spend the money or can't we just put it, I mean, right now we're asking to get it put in the budget. So we're doing the study, we've already got that in the budget. We're asking for this to be put in the budget and basically hold a spot in the budget so that if the study is positive, we have the money available to spend. Isn't that your understanding of what we're doing here today? Yeah, that's okay.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Yes,
Oh.
so the answer is yes. It can be put in the budget. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend it. On the other hand, it could be not in the budget, and the budget could be amended for it next year. So you've got choices.
Right, then you need the supermajority. I think what's interesting here is this wasn't, and the reason I kind of seconded Lou to bring this forward was this isn't really about dispatch, even though we're being told that we're attacking the police and attacking dispatch, which is absolute nonsense. What this is really about is making a good decision moving forward to save money in the future. I don't know if it's inevitable, but I can tell you what, I have talked to many in the police department, and I think at some point, as we continue to expand the police department, we will expand dispatch. What's not a conservative and fiscally responsible decision is what we made years, whatever it was, 6 to 8 months ago. And that decision was to doubly spend money that we're already spending, that we're already paying on our county taxes. And my closing decision on this is I will be voting in favor of it because I think it puts us in the right frame of mind. And what's funny is when we voted against going to WCC last time, one of the things used against going to WCC was we have to spend this money to go in. Now it's being used to say, well, if we pay it in, then we absolutely have to go. And that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is right now is your chance to buy in at a cheap rate. And, maybe it's 5 years. I can tell you what, if we make the decision 10 years from now, which is the lifespan of the equipment, give or take a few years, you're talking about saving $100,000 potentially. So, it is a real savings in that sense. And look, bad decisions will always have to be revisited 4 times, 5 times, 100 times until it's done right. So it's going to come back up, and it's going to keep coming back up because we're doing the study, and we're going to look at it again. This is our chance to hold our place in line.
Alderman Kavieski?
There's been some discussion about the word inevitable. I put the word inevitable into the presentation because that was actually what was referred to by Chief Pfister.
That
At
is
some
not
point,
correct.
it-
You never said that word.
Yeah, you did.
No, we did not.
Okay. At some point, inevitably, we're gonna have to take a look at this. If it is 10 years from now, and not 5 years from now, you're looking at closer to $150,000. This is not about the quality of dispatch. This is not about the dispatchers having their job next year. Again, it's not about the operational transfer. It's about fixing a cost associated with a service that doesn't increase in the value of the service that we're getting, which is WCC, not local dispatch. And again, it's in no way an attack on the police department, on our dispatchers. I made it very clear before and again today, it's not about an operational transfer. We do have dollars set aside in the budget next year to do that study. I don't know what that study is gonna show. That's why we're doing the study. It's a whole line item in the budget. We don't have to spend it. It's just like the $125,000 associated with the skate park. If we don't spend it next year, it stays. It's a way to properly position a fiscal decision that can be made next year based on the variables associated with that study and our community. And I brought it forward again because a majority of the council that said, no, I think we need more information about what the actual numbers are, because again, numbers were thrown around that it's just a couple $1,000s here or there, and it's not. The longer we stay with local dispatch, and again, I'm not advocating for going away from local dispatch, and at some point, if we do go to WCC, the more money this community saves. And to try to get to Alderman Spiegelberg's question, the 911 calls to local dispatch, so you're gonna take 911 calls away from Western Lakes Fire District and WCC and take them to local dispatch? We have agreed, as this body sits right now, that we're a dual dispatch community. That's the way it's gonna be. So again, with all due respect to those who put their lives on the line, those who support them in dispatch, it is a cohesive family and a cohesive unit. This is not an attack on you. This is just it's a capital expense associated with a service. That's it.
Alderman Mulder?
So I either fortunately or unfortunately was not around for the first 4 or 5 debates on this, so I'm catching up, and I'm probably as torn as anybody. Spending the money before the survey is done, the study is done, would be foolish. Having the money in the budget, prepared to spend it, does make some sense. But I'm very sensitive to the really the emotional nature of this, and the $10,000 that we would save by buying this year instead of next year. I'm not sure that offsets the anxiety we're causing our staff, and the loss of productivity or loss of coworkers there feeling undermined by the decision in an attempt to save $10,000. I think it sends a stronger message to the community saying we support a decision we made a year ago, and we will do a study, and then we will act on that study. But I don't think saving $10,000 right now for the eventuality that we might want to spend $174 later this year is, I don't think that's offsetting the damage to the relationships we're doing to the police right now. It doesn't matter what our intention is, it's the intention they're reading into it. And all the reassurances we give them when they're feeling their support, livelihood is on the line, that's real, whether we think it's real or not. It's up to them to decide if it's real and they feel it, so.
Lieutenant Tim?
Yeah, Mayor, I've heard the word nonsense tonight. I guess he wasn't on the phone today when I had 15 calls explaining why this is happening. So until he walks in my shoes or Chief Pfister's at this point, I've invited him, as well as every other member of this council, to go in our dispatch center, do a shift with them, do a 4-hour shift, and see what they go through. This is how frustrated they are for, again, the 4th, 5th, 6th time in the last few years. So again, nonsense. I beg to differ on that.
Any other comments from Alderman?
This is not an attack on me.
Alderman Rozak?
This should not be an attack on me. This is a policy decision. What I said was nonsense that we were attacking them. Okay, so let me be clear. I'm a huge supporter of the police. I think that the original decision was wrong, but I'm not unavailed by the arguments that actually make sense from Mr. Mulder, which is, if we are doing the study and the study comes back one way or the other, I'm not unavailed by that argument of just holding off on actually spending the money now or putting it in the budget. But understanding that people need to be open-minded, and I think everyone on this council is open-minded to actually consider what the study says, instead of listening to just the emotional, making a rational decision based on what we're being presented with and what we know are the problems with the dispatch, which is the delay, which is the transfers. That's unequivocal, and I believe when a study's done properly, we're going to see those things come forth. So actually, I'm going to change my vote. I think I'll vote against this one this time. So.
Further comments, Alderman Spiegelberg?
And you're voting against putting it in the budget at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you done, Alderman Spiegelberg? Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Shellpepper.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of voice my opinion on this one is, and I understand the intent isn't to operationally transfer, but I think that by doing so, I mean, why wouldn't we do it unless the idea is it's inevitably going to be, and it's going to happen? So I get the argument there, but it is also about the operational transfer, and that's kind of where I get hung up on it. I think it needs to be a holistic decision. The money is budgeted for the capital expense buy-in in addition to the operational transfer. I guess I want to see those things done together with the opportunity for public comment period so that we give our constituents the ability to have their input as well. And I completely understand the argument on the employee side, but I mean, this is also a community decision. It's not just about the dispatch and the police department. It's really a holistic argument and decision that needs to be made. So, and that's who I'm most sensitive to is to the people, the tax-paying citizens, many of whom are dispatchers as well. So that's who we need to look out for as well. And that's why I'm just gonna vote against this today, because I wanna see the study done, and I wanna see us address this in a comprehensive manner that is done altogether, not one-off phases, so.
Alderman Zapfel.
Just be brief. Thank you, Alderman Kozieski, for taking the time to put together this presentation. We heard this 30 days ago. At this point, my position hasn't changed from 30 days ago, and I'll be voting against this amendment. But as I've told Lieutenant Tim, Captain Pfister, I've gone through the dispatch when it was here. I look forward to going through dispatch at the new location. I also want to have an open mind and go through dispatch at WCC as well. So, but at this point, in this environment, I can't vote in favor of this year. Thank you.
Alderman Kavieski.
So again, the reason I brought this back is because at the last meeting, there was a statement by several aldermen that they didn't have enough information associated with the financials. This is the presentation associated with the financials. I've heard and understand and respect the comments made from the aldermen with the intent that the evaluation of the study will be done next year. And at that time, this will be brought up yet again. I'm fine with passing on it. And I will cast my vote as a nay.
Do you withdraw your amendment?
And I'll withdraw it.
You didn't make the motion.
Oh,
I
okay,
made
sorry.
the motion.
You didn't make the motion.
Given that, Lou, thanks for your presentation. I'll withdraw the motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay.
Great. Let's move on. Excuse me, Alderman Spiegelberg.
Can I just make one comment? As we're going into 2021 now, and we do have this money budgeted for this study, will we be able to have some input on how we would like to see this study unfold? For example, I really would like to see if there's a possibility, and maybe Stan Riffle can help us with that, to get our 911 cell phone calls back from Waukesha County.
So that's
part
a
of-
new issue that I have to get up to speed on, so I'm
Okay.
happy I will look into that. When it comes to doing an independent analysis, I will be spearheading that because I want to make sure that whatever information we get is useful information so we don't have different people on sides of an issue arguing about the data. So that's something I've actually talked to a few aldermen, because we have to make sure that we get apples to apples comparison and it's fair to everybody. Because with that, then we can make a valid decision. And that's already scheduled to do that. So, but to your point, I will look into the cell phone. I'm just not aware of that
Okay,
right now.
sounds good.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to some new business. So is there a motion to consider act on adoption of the 2021 City of Oconomowoc budget?
So moved.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? Alderman Rozak.
Yeah, thank you, Lori. This was a good budget year, I felt. And everyone knows my propensities for digging deep into the budgets and cutting things when necessary. I will vote for the budget this year. This is
No
only
way.
No.
This is only the second time out of six or seven budgets that I'm going to vote for. And here's why. And I think it's important for people watching to understand what we've done, because there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes from staff, from all the department heads, and then us in committees of the whole, and our budget cycles, and arguing around the table for 4 or 5 hours. I'm very happy that our operating levy has gone down by 14 cents. Our capital levy did go up, but that difference is only 1 penny on levy, which is huge. And so people that are watching or whatever should know that that is a big deal. That's huge. However, it does come at a price, and the price is the PFP. I did vote against the PFP, which basically transferred money from our general levy to the water bill.
Correct.
So people will have an increase in their water bill.
Yes.
And it is a tax by any other name. It is a tax. But still, this budget is good. We're eliminating debt, and I think ultimately it's a positive budget. Some of the things we can't control were decisions made by previous councils, for instance, with the debt that we've taken out. And the debt is both for the big, huge chunk of new debt, which is why your taxes are going up,
Right.
is the new police station
Correct.
and other expenditures related thereto, including dispatch. And some lingering debt, like the community center that was taken out 15 years ago. So that debt, though, some of that will start coming off, and hopefully that starts leveling off in years to come. So thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Alderman Ellis.
Yeah, I too want to thank you for the, you and your staff for all the work that you did. I'm really excited about this budget because at the end of the day, we're actually paying something off.
Yep.
And I appreciate that, so thank you very much.
You betcha.
Good. Any further comments? Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Alderman Zappel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
Next item is consider act on setting the 2020 property levy, tax levy for the 2021 budget. Do I have a motion?
The property tax levy is $12,357,279.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye. Aye.
Alderman Zappel.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Mulder.
Aye.
Alderman Shell Pepper.
Aye.
So we have no staff reports at this point, but I would like to give an opportunity for Chief Bowen, if you have any additional comments for council, and the same for Lieutenant Tim. Do you have any comments for council?
I guess I'll just tell the council, I'm happy to say that the fire district in the last week received 3 different grants. One for a smaller grant of $1,000, but actually over $33,000 grant that went towards our leadership training from the federal government. And then we also got the Wisconsin DNR grant, which they're paying $8,500 into.
Lieutenant Tim?
No, I think I said enough tonight. Thank you.
And, and Lori?
Yep, sorry. Tonight, you were handed your utility budget binders. So I just want you to know that inside of there, there's a memo for you. There's a memo for you that summarizes those budgets, kind of bottom line. And there's also the same thing that we did with general funds. So you'll find in the packet a line item budget that gives you, you know, the difference between last year and this year. Put some little notes in there for changes and gives you the page number if you need to look up further detail. You can write your own notes on that worksheet. We'll be looking at that with the utility committee next week on Tuesday, and with committee of the whole, the first meeting in November 4th.
Thank you. Any comments from aldermen that you'd like to share before closing? Alderman Zappel.
Chief Bowen, thank you to the Western Lakes Fire Department for the pancake breakfast. My boys loved it. They had a great time coming through and seeing all the fire trucks out. and the breakfast was great. Thank you to Cornerstone as well. I just also want to say congratulations. Probably going to miss some sports here to the high school sports team, the girls tennis team, the girls volleyball team,
Soccer team for the
boys soccer team. Congratulations to the boys football team on the 2 victories. I think Coach Logie's doing a great job. Probably missing a couple other things, but I'm very happy to see that our athletic program and our students are thriving in classes right now.
Any other comments? Alderman Rozak.
Two real brief ones. In-person absentee started today, I believe, correct? Our hours are Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 2, and Friday only till noon.
No,
No?
8:30 to 2:30.
Oh. Why are we not open, well, I guess this is comment, I don't know, but I've had several complaints already that it should be open, the full time we're open till 4:30 to give people a chance coming from work to vote in-person absentee. We're also only open till Friday at 12 for in-person absentee. And it's my belief that this is probably the most important time in our country to vote. And I think people should be given every single extra minute they can to vote. And I would encourage our city clerk or staff or whoever makes that call to get us to the full rate, rack rate, or at least pretty close. And frankly, if you need more time or you need more money, I'd do a budget amendment next meeting to give you someone to help out, stuffing envelopes or doing whatever you need, because I think we're probably going to see more of that this year than we'll see probably ever again. So that's that first comment. The second comment was something related to a comment I made at the last meeting when Captain Pfister was sworn in as chief. And that was that the only member of the PFC that actually showed up for that swearing in was the one member that voted against Captain Pfister for chief. No other members of the PFC showed up. I made a comment that I was disappointed in that. I understand from Captain Pfister that he invited them to come and they didn't show up. Since that meeting 2 weeks ago, I've heard nothing from any member of the PFC as to why they weren't here to support our new chief. So I would like to hear something from them. Good, bad, or nothing, I guess, as to why they weren't here to support the new chief. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Any other comments from Alderman? Alderman Spiegelberg.
I would like to publicly send my condolences to the family of Jay and Julie Larson.
Yes.
Jay was an alderman in District 1, sat in my seat for many, many years. And as most of you guys know, their child, Ben, and only child, drowned last Saturday. I think, this council has been around for decades and decades, and it's a revolving and rotating group of people. But I think we can all agree, once you're on this council, you're part of a family, and Jay is a part of that family. So I want to publicly, and with you guys' permission, send those condolences to Jay and Julie.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Last comment for the night.
Okay,
I also wanted to
last.
thank just our public safety personnel. I went out to National Night Out. It was maybe 2 weeks ago now. Great time, awesome. I took my kids there. I took, one kid there. I've got a 3-month-old and a 18-month-old, so taking them together is, always an issue, which is why we didn't go to the pancake, breakfast, maybe in a couple of years. But I just want to say, you guys really put on a great, you do great things. We so much appreciate the things you do for our community, and, having that sort of opportunity for the public to come out to talk with you guys, it's just awesome. So thanks so much.
Alderman Ellis.
I hate to end on a downer, but I'd just like everybody to understand that this virus is a lot more potent than a lot of people give it credit for. Over this last week, I know of a tremendous amount of individuals, over 10, that live very close, that have come down with this virus. All I'm asking is that we be safe, we be smart, and we protect ourselves at this time. If we do that, we can get to the other end of this, where we're not Teflon. We are humans. And I can get it just like anybody else can, and we got to know that. And what we need to do is we need to be very smart and very wise in what we do. and look out for yourself. That's the bottom line. That's all I want to end with.
Thank you for those comments. Any further comments from Alderman? Alderman Kowalski, did I miss any hand waving or anything?
No, he already commented.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Well, I do have a few comments before we adjourn. There's a really big upper. I'd just like to congratulate Lori Sullivan, who got engaged this last weekend. So congratulations, Lori. She's engaged.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The blushing bride. Very, very exciting. We learned about that this morning, so congratulations. I also want to take our hats off to Alderman Kowalski, who took on the challenge to try to give you factual information and data so you could decide, no matter what a decision is made. One of my personal agendas is try to, as I've always said, is try to be transparent, but even more importantly, if you have all the information, you can do what you think is right for your constituents. Another big hats off to all of you. Obviously, the staff has worked hard to present budgets to you, but the way you worked with that budget, I was very impressed. I was very happy to see the operating budget did not increase because we have a lot of control over those. But also to remember that budgets go up and we have to, if we start spending more money, and I'm very, very conservative with money. And I think that if we continue to do that, as previous councils and mayors have done, we're going to continue to create opportunities for our city. So job well done, everybody. And I really enjoyed the lively and productive discussion. And it's really the way you guys are starting to gel together and to share different ideas. My hat's off to you. So reminder that our council meeting, that is the first Tuesday of November, is being switched to Wednesday by the request of several people because of the national election. So again, it'll be Wednesday, November 4th. And I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a nice evening, everyone.